Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs at Wednesdays mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And it's a wonderful chance for you to join and learn more about spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, or more. And many times I like to do a tour of places here in Lilydale. And we have a very special location that I'm standing in right now. This is the Lilydale Museum. And we're so grateful for the fact that we can be here today and give you a virtual tour and have you have a little taste of Lilydale from your very own home. And hopefully you can start making plans to visit Lilydale. The summer season is going to be starting soon, folks. Here we are. It's June 1st. And by the last Friday of June, season will be starting. So it'll run for 10 weeks. It starts on June 24th this year and runs until the day before Labor Day, which is September 4th. So I hope you can join us sometime within that 10 weeks. There are lots of daily events to go to, weekly events, lectures, workshops, and more. And you can check that all out on lilydaleassembly.org. So I encourage you to take a look at those. My weekly podcast show goes out on my Facebook page, also through Lilydale, and on my YouTube channel. So if you want more of these great shows, let me know. You can like and share and follow and be educated about the world of spirit. So today, as I said, I am in the Lilydale Museum. And I encourage you to look back at the archive videos of the show. You can have other visits that I've made to the Lilydale Museum and other locations around Lilydale and other wonderful guests. And today I have with me, let me show you who he is. Turn around. I have with me today Ron Nagy. Hi, Ron.
Hi.
Ron is the Lilydale historian, and we're so grateful that he's given his service of his heart and of his mind to this important preservation of history here in Lilydale. And you've been the Lilydale historian for how many years now, Ron? 20 years. That's 2 decades, folks. That's about how long I've been registered as a medium as well. Time flies by, doesn't it? And as you can see, we've got lots of great things in this Lilydale Museum. And I have to say, Ron has been a wonderful source of information and holding of the history. So today, we are at our special show, we're going to be talking about spirit slate writing. And it's a wonderful physical mediumship that people don't do so much nowadays, so it's more in the history context, right, Ron?
Right.
So let's tell them a little bit about what is slate writing.
Slate writing is a different way of spirit contacting the living. The message is put directly on the slate, so the medium doesn't have to interpret from spirit what the message is. It's in plain writing on the slate, either in writing or a picture you'll recognize, but it is proof of the continuity of life.
Yes, it's a form of independent writing, which is a form of automatic writing, that it happens, we assume, through ectoplasmic form, to some extent, but through the ethers. And different physical mediums throughout the years have really specialized in slate writing. And we're going to show you a bit about this in terms of the slates. So we have an example for you. So little school chalkboard slates that people used to use to practice their ABCs and their reading, writing, and arithmetic, right, Ron?
Yeah, and this is like, they call it like quantum mechanics, how it comes through the ethers and it gets put on. It's something you don't understand, like you don't understand how your cell phone works,
sure,
or how your watch works.
They don't even really understand how electricity works.
And they don't, they don't understand how this works, so it's not right to criticize something you don't understand.
Oh, excellent point, Ron. So in terms of this, we typically have 2 slates, and then they would put a morsel or a crumb. This is too big of an example, really. But see, just a crumb would be on there, fit for a mouse. And then we put those together so it's inaccessible. And then nowadays we have these wonderful rubber bands, but they would have used ribbons or string or some sort of cord to tie it up. And
the medium puts their hands on the slate, and the sitter puts their hands on the slate.
Right.
And you just wait.
Wait.
You just wait until you hear this.
Little nails on chalkboard. Oh my goodness.
The teacher used to do that. Yeah, and that's the way you know it's done.
Yeah. So
then
you would hear.
Open this up.
You hear it scratching.
Open this up, and you might have.
That's in a frame now, but you might have that.
Writing or some.
No, it wouldn't happen very quickly. This is something that people had to sit and be patient for. Remember, this is before the days of television, right, Ron? So people had a bit more patience and focus, and they really wanted to hear from their loved ones.
And they didn't wear watches.
Yeah.
They had pocket watches, so time was irrelevant.
In many ways. So in terms of this, they might have to sit there for an hour. And this was typically done in full daylight, in a room. They meet during the day. It wouldn't necessarily be a nighttime physical phenomenon in that degree.
Still people practicing this.
Sure.
That's another thing. You don't practice slate writing as a medium. You practice patience. Your spirit guide is the one who has to learn the process of this.
Right.
You're learning patience. So you just sit the same time every day, usually at night. You sit in the light or a dim room and buy a candle and some nice music and just relax.
That's right. And so in terms of doing this is something that they would do with the slates. And then I know that in a certain period of history, slate was something that wasn't available as much to people. And so what would they do, Ron?
During World War II, when slate became, it was a commodity for the war, they started putting a piece of cardboard between the slates. And then they would have a pencil point, break the pencil point off, and then they would cover it and tie it up and put their hands on it. And then they would get the writing or the drawing or whatever that mark would be, something that you would recognize.
So it could be handwriting or it could be art that would show up.
Flowers.
And so we're going to show you in this case here in the Lilydale Museum. There's some examples which you would be able to see better in person. You're going to get some glare with this particular camera energy, but you can see this was done on porcelain with paint, and the Campbell brothers are also famous for doing spirit art paintings, precipitation paintings, which we've, look back in the archived videos of Wednesdays with Willa. You'll be able to see those spirit art paintings and examples and understandings about it. And in terms of doing the slate writing, I'm going to take you through the case a little bit. This was done, Ron, you want to tell them about the organic materials?
I liked organic materials. I say that for slate writing and also spirit painting. Organic materials, this isn't organic. This is synthetic chalk.
So there's organic chalk.
Organic would be like the wax pencils you get at Home Depot or something like that.
Okay.
Where that's organic. And organic is not today's slates because that's just paint over cardboard.
Right, chalkboard paint.
The real slate come from there, and this is real slate.
Right.
The old-fashioned kind.
So in terms of looking through this, again, you'd be able to see this better in person. So we encourage you to come and visit Lilydale so you can see this, and you'd be able to read this better. This is a whole letter practically that's written on this particular slate. And I wonder do you know how long people had to sit for something like that? Would that have been done in an hour or
Sometimes, most of the time, it's not an hour, it's like 10 to 15 minutes. Because when that writing appears, nobody's sitting there writing it from the spirit realm. It's like sent down like a telegraph in one shot. Like I said, quantum mechanics. It just happens.
So you might hear a little scratch, but it's at the end.
You'll hear a scratch when it's done. You might hear scratching when it's...
So these are some examples of art that are done with this.
That art means something to whoever was sitting there. It was a special flower of theirs.
And these have been donated to the museum so that people could have examples of slate writing. You can see that... let's see, what's that say? My dear one, we bring you blessings from spirit side of life again today. Ever with you to cheer you on life's journey while in the body. And it continues on. But how beautiful. What a sweet message that would be. Now this is a completely different handwriting that's in this bottom one. This is, I can't even read that one. Something me to come. I have not done this before. Oh, so it's a spirit who hasn't done it before. And as an example of there.
That is famous. The
this
Abraham
one here?
Lincoln
This is the, okay, let's explain about the Abraham Lincoln one.
After Abraham Lincoln passed, they wanted to communicate. So Abraham Lincoln and the spirit guides in the ethers, and somebody sat and it appeared on the slate, a message from Lincoln.
So this would be Abraham Lincoln. The Lincoln slate appeared during a seance with Keeler, a medium named Keeler, and it was before the year 1900. And they know that it could have been, he passed away at Jamestown. Very cool. Jamestown, New York is very close here to Lilydale. So he was almost 60 years as a well-recognized international medium. And then this was an example of...
They put an X on the slate when they're first given the blank slates, because some people would cheat, and with a pointy metal marker they would scratch in the slate a message and then throw powder slate on it and blow it off, wipe it off, and there's a message on there already. Then they would coat it with a black material and then close the slates, and you were tricked. And in between, they would wipe all that greasy stuff off.
Yeah. Holy cow.
But what I would do is, when you first get the slates, they had the chalk and they made an X on the slate. And if your chalk didn't slide or get gooey on the end, you knew it was a good slate and it wasn't tampered with.
So
that's why
you're saying that they would
X
actually
there.
etch in to the slate.
They would etch in the slate with like a wood awl or like an ice pick. They would, and then they would throw the powders.
That's so sad, but a lot of work. Yeah. Holy cow!
Well, it's a lot of work, but they were making a lot of money. That quarter,
so.
50 cents was big money back then.
But typically there would be a person's name or something in answer of a question. It was more geared and steered to that kind of understanding when it comes to slate. I'm going to come over here. Ron's gestured. It's time to come over here. Tell us about that.
That may be a nickname of the person that was having it done for. The name Florence came through, and nobody but this person's great-grandmother called her by the nickname Florence. And her favorite flower was the forget-me-nots.
Lovely.
So that meant something to that young lady, and it was proof of continuity of life.
Yes. If anybody has any questions, I'm monitoring through Facebook here while I'm live. And if you have any questions for Ron about slate writing, this would be a good time to ask. Because this won't be a lengthy show, but we wanted to make sure we shared some of the slate writing with all of you today and get you excited to come into the museum and learn more, not just about slate writing, but other things. So here's an example of slate writing. I'm getting a little glare. You probably can't see that. Again, you got to come here in person, folks. But in this slate, it reads, "In every flower that blooms around, some pleasing emblem we may trace. Young love's in the myrtle found, and memory in the pansy's grace. Peace in the olive branch we see. Hope in the half-shut iris glows. In the bright laurel, victory, and lovely women in the rose." And then tell me what's Ike about.
The spirit guide of Keeler.
So the medium Keeler had a spirit guide named Ikey, Ikey. And so that spirit guide would have assisted him in this showing up, precipitating.
Here's one here. The person was going to be smart and test the medium, and he said, "I want my message to be written in gold." So what the medium said, the spirit guide said to the medium, "Tell them to put their gold watch on top of the slates when we close them up, and some of that material from the gold watch made the message."
No way. That's a really amazing.
That only happened twice that I know of.
Beautiful. And that appeared in
Don't
gold.
test spirit.
I guess no, it's not spirit. So someone's asking, in terms of slate writing, do people do slate writing today? And Ron had answered that question a little bit earlier. Yes, people still sit for it, but it's not something that's publicly done for people.
I know 3 people that are sitting for it now, and they are practicing their patience. And the one girl has gotten a streak with 2 loops in it, which she's tickled to death because that is something that happened. But in my book, I have 5 mediums that it took anywhere from 2 to 3 years for them, and back in the day, to have something appear on the slates. But once it starts to appear, it will always happen when you sit.
So then, another question coming in, how do you clean the slate?
Just like you clean any school board slate. Now they use magic markers or something. But in the old days, they had a slate board with chalk, and you just had an eraser, and you could use water if you want to get it real clean.
And I think a lot of people, if they actually got some of this, they probably would keep the slate rather than reuse
most of them
that.
keep the slate as like if they keep a spirit drawing that they have done.
And some more questions in terms of the slate writing. Here we have this. Hold on a second. I had the question. There it is. Will it work with new types of slate, or should we search for a quarry, a place that would have slate in another
Barn roof shingles.
quarry supplier?
Barn roof shingles. Just go to where factories were or something, and those shingles were all slate. They slide off the roofs, and you could use them. Or like over here, I have the organic.
The organic kind. So a lot of them are synthetic, as Ron was saying earlier, or people are using chalkboard paint. You're probably not going to get the same thing. Organic materials are really important.
I have there, I would suggest with the synthetics, I would call this synthetic, and then I would put the cardboard in there with a piece of pencil and use it, because then you're using all the same kind of materials.
Right, and I know there are some other questions. Let me just see if I can scroll a little bit through here. Where does the color come from? That's a good question. Where does the color come from for some of those? If they only have a piece of chalk or a pencil nub, would they have put other pastel?
A pencil nub and a piece of chalk. All colors are in the spectrum in the ethers, and that's how it happens. The spirit picks what you may or they think you're going to like.
So you wouldn't have to have different colors of pastel necessarily.
No, I've never read where there was color chalk or materials
Right.
put out.
That's an interesting answer for sure. And let me see if I can scroll again, guys. Pencil nub. Yeah, those are some of the questions that I was able to capture as I'm looking through this. If anybody else has more questions about this, ask within the next couple of minutes, because we're going to talk about some of the other slates that are over there, right, Ron?
Okay.
I know there was and there are famous slate mediums. Like if you wanted to look in the history of spiritualism that was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. He wrote a big book about history of spiritualism, has lots of wonderful information in it. In terms of slate writing, he does talk about Henry Slade, and we do have Henry Slade and Eglinton and other people who were famous for it. Ron's going to show us this too now.
This is a different one. It's very rare. Mm-hmm. It is a frame, and it has Polaroid glass and two different qualities put on top of it, and you put the cardboard in there with your broken point of pencil, and they put the Polaroid in there, and somehow that was, at the time they were saying that was attracting more energy. I haven't been able to prove that, but that isn't recent. That's like very old. It's almost from the beginning of
That's an interesting idea,
the slate writing.
This idea of photographic plates then being able to somehow be utilized by spirit to create its own picture.
And it is real Polaroid. Glass. The same as those glasses there they used to use for seeing auras.
What's it say? Is this it? Aura goggles?
Yeah. They used to use those for seeing auras.
I wonder what kind of glass is in there. You said it's
Polaroid.
You think it's
That's the same glasses that the steel workers use in the steel plants to look in the furnace without, or if you wanted to look at the sun without messing your eyes up.
So you're saying that they would sit in daylight with these on and look at someone and be able to see their aura?
Yeah.
Interesting idea. Very interesting. Oh, how to store a slate in fabric or any other suggestions? How would you store the slate?
Anything, depends what turns you on. You can put it in a nice fancy box. You could keep it in a drawer. I would cover it, wrap it with something. It's something that's valuable to you.
And this is something that you wouldn't just necessarily do for entertainment purposes. This is something that if you really want to sit sincerely with sacred intention to connect with spirit
if you're going
and to develop it.
Again,
right intention, work. Folks.
If for entertainment, I don't think it'll work.
Right. It's not supposed to be for those kind of things.
Fool around.
So keep it in that sacred context. All mediumship, in my opinion, needs to be done from that space to be really effective and to really have that kind of glowing radiance of love that's associated with it. As you can see with some of the other slates that we've shown you today in the museum. And so when it comes to slate writing, I know I was reading in the history of spiritualism, but some people would put it under a cloth, but it would be on the table. You could still see it. The sitter, would bring the slates. They'd put the chalk in between, and they'd put a cloth over it, and then the medium and the sitter would hold, and they would have that experience. Oh, see, where do you purchase a slate in Lilydale? Does the museum sell them? No, we don't sell them here in Lilydale. It's something you'll have to
They sell those.
They just sell those things.
But they sell out fast, and then they don't.
In the bookstore, yeah, they don't
supply them.
Yeah, so you could probably find them online somewhere.
Yeah.
Great questions, guys, and this is the time to ask. Did you want to share this one with them? This is kind of an interesting phenomenon, guys.
I like this. When you get somebody that has a lot of energy in their hands, especially a physical medium, and you make them angry any time of the day or a night. They don't have to be doing phenomena, but the energy, you can see there are pictures of the energy coming out of hands. Well, Fred Evans was a slate writer, but he also could have a temper, the same way with Kira. They were high strung, the slate writers. And they made Fred Evans angry when he was doing the slates. And he didn't ground that energy, and he just ran his hands over the slates he didn't have to cover his slates together. They were open-faced.
Open-faced.
And he ran his hands over the top of the slate, just like that. He didn't touch them. God forbid.
Would you say he was kind of like within inches of it? Or
well,
would you say a foot?
I'd say 6 inches.
Okay.
It's like if I'm really angry and I touch something, it's destroyed.
Now,
but he ran his hands over, and this is an example of how the slates break up when
the energy surges through there. Now, do we know why he was angry? Do we have a sense of what was going on?
If somebody was questioning his ability, or if somebody was mocking him, or skeptics were, I mean, there's a lot of ways to get angry.
Well, sure. So you're saying these actually split. How many slates was it? Just these 2 slates, or were there others?
He had
10 slates.
Table. They weren't in lock boxes. He had them open. It was for a bigger, longer message, and the message would be written from slate to slate.
Was that for one person, or was he trying to do multiple messages?
It was for a message. He, in my book, when Fred Evans came through, it's the picture on the front of the book. When he came through with the message from his spirit guide, the message went from the first slate to the 13th slate.
Got it.
And it was one long message, and it was a book about how to do slate writing.
So can you show them how the lockbox works? How that opens and closes, and how people do things? To be careful with these broken ones. And
the lock boxes were used if what people didn't trust the medium or something, they would put these are older slates, by the way. These are some of the oldest because they're bigger.
Sure.
And they would have a box, and it would close, and they could either screw it shut, or there would be a hinges on it and a hasp and lock put on the other side. So the medium couldn't get to it. I brought the slates to the slate writing sitting.
As a sitter, you bring
I never left go of them, and I'd put them in a box, and then I'd close the box and lock it, and I'd say, "There, Mr. Medium, let's go at it." So you put your hands on the box like that, and you'd wait to see if it was going to happen. A.B. Richmond down there, that first slate you showed.
Oh, yeah?
That's how he done a message. And when Maggie Fox was here in 1882 for the whole summer, that's what they were doing with her. They were using lock boxes. And I would keep those lock boxes in my room until the next day for the slate writing sitting. And if nothing would appear, I would take those lock boxes with the slate in them back to my room and go the next day to my appointment with those lock boxes.
Interesting.
But she did her slate writing here for one summer.
Really? I did not know she was here for that.
1882. I don't know if she stayed in a room in a hotel. I doubt it. She was too important of a person. She most likely stayed with one of the wealthier families.
Sure. Makes sense. Makes sense. So those are some great things. Can this be done with paper and pen? I mean, that would take it more into the idea of spirit art or independent writing.
That would be automatic writing.
Yeah,
That's
it would be
different
into
than
that
slate
space.
writing.
So, but in terms of slate writing, which is the focus of the today's show, those are, you do it with actual slate, or in the case of the Campbell brothers, they did it on porcelain, and it was precipitated. It's a form of precipitated. Let's see, I have slate rock that breaks off in sheets.
And it's still natural material.
From the river area.
It's porcelain.
Can I use this? Yes, it
And
sounds
it's
like you absolutely could
natural-
use that.
It's natural oils. And like today, there's synthetic oil paint. But I tell people that are practicing precipitated painting to try to get the natural colors in your oil paints, and it could work.
So don't do acrylics, use oil paints.
I always say
The high
if you're
stink factor on
working
that,
with spirit,
and fumes.
work with spirit, use natural.
Use natural. You know, it's a lot of times when people would sit for physical mediumship and phenomenon, that would be, sit in wooden chairs rather than metal chairs. There are all kinds of reasons for that some people really ascribe to.
You use a wooden table without any metal screws or hinges and all. It's all naturally made. And then when you sit for like a seance of 2 or 3 people are all trying to have slate writing done from the same slate, and you're going to try to do it from week to week, pick the same day, the same time, the same place, wear the same clothes, because spirit is still trying to come down. And to spirit, this is one day. To us, it's one day. Then next week is another week, 7 days. But the spirit thinks it's still the same day, and they're still trying to come down to you.
That is an excellent point. The consistency is a big part of the right practice associated with mediumship, and having that patience to sit. Not just for physical mediumship, but mental mediumship is definitely part of that you have to be consistent. And that's why week to week, again, the same time, same place, as it were, that you'd want to build up the energy as a group together, or even as an individual with spirit.
Yeah, always the same people, and ask
people.
the spirit if they can add a person.
Well, it looks like people have had their questions answered about slate writing. Is there anything else you'd want to share in terms of the museum or anything about slate writing?
See you all this summer.
Yeah, see y'all this summer. And this is the Lilydale Museum. It can be found on the corner of East Street and Library Street, up near the Healing Temple and the Fire Hall, the Lilydale Fire Hall. So hope you guys all enjoyed our virtual tour to the Lilydale Museum. I'm so grateful that we were able to be here and share this great information. As I said, Ron is such a wonderful, helpful soul to explain these things to us so that we have them from a historical perspective. And you can find out more about Ron's work on his website, ronnagy.net, I think it is.
Yeah.
And then also, if you need to contact Ron Nagy, our Lilydale historian, the email address. Oh, you're on Facebook.
You can use Ron Nagy Lilydale
Ron Nagy
at gmail.com.
All right, so Ron
on
Nagy
Facebook.
Lilydale at gmail.com if you need to reach out to Ron, ask a question having to do with history. He'll do what he can to help you. And Ron, let's tell them what the hours are for this summer.
This summer we're going to work 11 to 4, 7 days.
All right, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day of the Lilydale summer season program. You can enjoy visiting here at the Lilydale Museum. And during the off season, it's by appointment. So you would have to reach out to.
Or I may be in here, and then it's a nice day, and I'll leave the front door open with a flag out, and then just walk in.
Right. If you happen to be here, and so those are great ways for you to know that you can be in here. And slate writing is just the beginning, folks. This is Lilydale Museum has a lot of wonderful things that you can enjoy, and Ron is happy to explain those things to you. If you were really fascinated with Lilydale history, We're so grateful. There are lots of events coming up for this summer, so hope you can join us for the 2022 Lily Della summer season. Join me next week when I'll be back for another great podcast show here on Wednesdays with Willa. You can find me on Willa White Medium on Facebook and also on the YouTube channel. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Bye-bye.